to a bonus edition of Blasty Banter here on the Couch Potato Diary Sports Network. This one's going to be all about the Calgary Flames, so thought it fit under the Blasty Banter, brand that we are doing now. But welcome as we react to the Chris Tanev trade from last night, as Tanev is on his way to the Dallas Stars in a 3-team deal. Going to look at this from the side of the Flames, a little bit on the Dallas Stars and kind of the overall legacy that Tanev leaves behind now with the Flames. But it was interesting. Last night, a lot going on was out, and just didn't charge my phone. Phone died. I was like, oh, well, guess I'm not checking my phone. And then someone comes up like, so what do you think of the Tanev trade? I was like, it'll probably happen at some point. It's like, no, it happened now. Like, oh, okay then. So really interesting. And like your first reaction is that it is a touch underwhelming because it's the marquee thing initially is it's a second round pick. And it's a prospect that not a lot of people are overly familiar with. And when you've been going on a bit of a roll here, it's like, well, would have liked to get a little bit more. But then, like, realistically, for a rental who, while is very good, nothing but great things to say about the hockey player Chris Tanev, can get hurt a little bit. So I think overall this is a good trade for the Calgary Flames. It's a solid return. It's not a home run. It is a good trade for the Flames. I was of the belief that they probably weren't going to get a first round pick for him. And so it makes, like, I feel pretty good about this from a Calgary standpoint. Let's look right now first at the prospect that they are getting in Artem Grushnikov. Sorry, I'll get used to it. And again, I really should type these out instead of just reading my own handwriting. But it's look, like you do a bit of reading on this kid, and he seems like he is just going to be a really solid left-hand shot defenseman. Like it seems like his game right now is a bit stay at home. Reading Bukala's breakdown on Sportsnet, which by the way is incredible stuff. It seems like there could be a bit of the upside. Like he has the tools to do more on offense. He just doesn't. Like it seems like he is a very good skater, but uses that skater in ways to get out of the defensive zone, not necessarily to lead the rush or anything like that, but just a solid defensive defenseman who you can rely on in certain situations. And so, like, could there potentially be a little bit more offensive upside there? Maybe. I think he kind of topped out around like 7 or 8 goals. He might have got to 12 one year in the Ontario Hockey League, but we have seen like some guys come to the NHL level with the Flames in the last little bit, and all of a sudden, like, best case scenario kind of raises right now. And I'm not saying that the Flames need to bank on that, and it's been a couple of dudes, so like the sample size is small and stuff like that, but like it does seem like there could be a little bit something extra there with this kid who is just 20 years old. This is his first year of pro hockey, but right now it seems like he is a bit more of a steady defenseman, and you're hoping he develops into maybe a little bit more. But odds are the kid is probably going to be, from the projections that you see, probably going to be third pair defenseman out there on the penalty kill, just a strong, solid defenseman. Former second round pick, so you could say basically that this is a trade for a couple of second round picks. But the one comment that Conroy made that kind of was a little like, I don't know if I love that. But when he was talking with the 960 crew last night, talking about, oh, well, we have like these guys who are a bit more like offensive minded with Poirier and the kid they got, Bruce Twitch in the Lindholm trade. Like, these guys are a bit more like flashy, more offensive defensemen. I'm wildly paraphrasing here. But those guys are a little bit more on that side of things. Now we have a guy who can be with them and be a bit more stay at home. And I don't always love for, okay, well, this is an organizational need, so let's pluck that out. And maybe that was just the tiebreaker, right? Which in that case, fine. Maybe they're like, there's a handful of prospects, pick one. And it's like, well, we have one of those, we have one of those. We don't really have one of those, let's go with that. But I would much rather just get the best players available and figure out, like, who fits into which box a little bit later. So that was the only one. I was like, I don't love that explanation so much, but overall, like, I think this is a kid who it seems like all the stuff you read, he's a second round pick. He's solid at what he does. He is a good skater that can like keep up with modern NHL stuff. This isn't Hal Gill back there. When you think of like strong, solid, physical, stay-at-home defenseman, you kind of think of a plotter. He's certainly not that. You see some clips of him. The dude can skate, and he's very good, but he just kind of uses that skating ability to get himself out of trouble instead of get the other team into trouble. So it's fine. It's fine. It's certainly not the NHL ready players that we've been seeing the Flames making moves for. This is definitely much more of a developmental prospect. Again, 20 years old, playing his first year in professional hockey. The second round pick they get in this year's draft now means they have 2 firsts this year, assuming the conditions on the Montreal thing aren't met, which they probably won't be. They have 2 firsts this year, 2 seconds, they have a third, and 2 fourths. So they have done a pretty good job of kind of stacking things up this year. They also, I think, have an extra third. We'll get to it in a little bit, but an extra third in 2026. Next year's draft, they don't have their first, they have Florida's first, and then I believe they have the rest of their picks. If we're talking about like beggars can't be choosers, and like I said, just get the best. I'm more talking about draft capital here than players, because I don't like talking about players as assets, but get the best assets that you can and just figure it out later. But I would like to maybe start to see them like, okay, you have a few extra picks now in this draft. Maybe start to focus on 25 a little bit and maybe try to branch this thing out and space things out a little bit instead of, well, we drafted 18 kids this year. So now everyone's contracts are coming up at the same time, blah, 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 blah. Maybe just space this out a little bit more now. But assets are assets, draft picks are draft picks. You can trade back to next year and make it work that way. Like there's ways of going about this for sure. But like overall, you look at it, there's potentially another third if Dallas makes it to the Cup final, which by the way is not out of the realm of possibility. If you're looking at the circle of contenders in the NHL, I think you could throw the Dallas Stars in there, especially with this move now. So I do not rule out that there is an extra third coming, which would mean you have an extra pick in the first, second, third, and fourth round. And this is before you move Hanifin and maybe Markstrom. So the Flames have put themselves in a pretty good spot now. And now you would assume with Hanifin, there's going to be, I would suggest, probably a substantial amount of draft capital coming. So Craig Conroy in this retool has brought in a few players who are contributing now, right? Sharangovich, Kuzmenko, a little all over the place, but they've done that. But you have also added a couple of very intriguing prospects down on the farm, and in junior hockey as well. But you have also now loaded up with quite a bit of draft capital to either make a couple of moves, like do you package some of those together, try to move your way up? Do you just pick from all of those spots and maybe you get a few? So I think the Flames have set themselves up in a pretty good way with this trade and with other trades. Like overall, like I said, it's not a home run, but this is far from a loss. From a Calgary Flames perspective, this is a good trade. Dallas doesn't have to give up any of their like real top prospect type players, and the Flames get, like I said, essentially 2 second round picks and a player who projects to be the potential of playing in the National Hockey League someday. You get that for a rental defenseman who, while good and while we respect, also gets hurt a lot. So I think overall this is a good job. And now you look at kind of the overall scope of what Conroy has done with the Flames. So far, in Conroy's tenure, he has moved out to Foley, Zadorov, Lindholm, and Tanev. He has acquired Grushnikov, got it that time, maybe, Kuzmenko, Yermo, Brustowicz, Sharangovich, a 2023 third, which ended up being, that they ended up using that pick, a 2024 first, 2024 second, conditional fourth, conditional fifth, 2026 third, and another conditional third for 2026. So overall, if the conditions hit, and not all of them will, but if the conditions hit right now, it's it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prospects, a first, a second, 2 thirds, 3 thirds, a fourth, and a fifth. So he has basically, in 4 players, got, what is that again? 5 players and almost like an entire extra draft class brought in for these guys, and you still have one of the marquee names to go in Noah Hanifin, and then you may have another marquee name in Jacob Markstrom. So I think Conroy so far has been so good for the Calgary Flames with the moves that have been made to bring these guys in. Bravo is my take on the overall body of the retool of the Calgary Flames. Just quickly on the Dallas side, this is a Stars team that I like quite a bit, and I think that there is a lot there with this Stars group. I think they have quite a bit of potential and quite a bit of talent on the offensive side, and then you look at the blue line in front of one of the top budding stars in the league in goal in Jake Ottinger, but you look at the blue line, Tanev now. You either can put Tanev on the top pair, move Heiskanen back over to the left side where he's a bit more comfortable, or you have a right side of Heiskanen and Tanev to go along with Haley, who's having a bit of a breakout year on the left, and Esa Lindell, and then you have Suter, Hakanpää, a couple other guys as well that you can put on your third pairing. That's a very good hockey team. And so you look at this from a Stars standpoint, while I do like the return for Calgary, it's not a ton for Dallas. And they're getting Tanev at 25% of his salary. So who cares, really? This is, I think, really strong work for Dallas, where they're basically adding a player for free, honestly. Like, second round pick is nothing, or isn't nothing. And the prospect isn't nothing. But, excuse me, it holds on to their top prospects and still top picks if they want to go out and make another type of a blockbuster deal here to bring in another player, whether it be another defenseman or another scorer on this team. So I think the Dallas Stars are actually set up in a pretty good spot going forward. And when you're looking at the conditions on that pick, and one of them potentially being a third rounder if Dallas does make it to the Stanley Cup final, then you feel pretty good about that from a Calgary standpoint. Like, this is a Dallas team that could definitely do that. One last one here on Tanev, as we close the book for now on Tanev as a Calgary Flame. Who knows? Maybe he'll want to re-sign in the offseason. I would bet against it, but maybe. Who knows? But as you close the book here, it is, like, to me, the legacy of this guy is, like, he is leaving this organization better than he found it. And, like, because of what he did. And because of how he played. You look at who he has played with. I think the Flames are going to get a little bit extra now for Noah Hanifin, because Hanifin played with Tanev. Mackenzie Weegar got to play with Tanev, and all of a sudden, we're talking about the breakout of Mackenzie Weegar. Oliver Shillington, but before he left and came back, he played with Tanev, and you were starting to see the potential that we saw in Oliver Shillington. Everyone that Tanev played with not only got better, but found the best version of themselves. That is such a rare trait to have that in any type of a hockey player, where just anything he touched all of a sudden became its best version. He is someone who, like I said, is invaluable as a leader in the locker room, as a tone setter out on the ice, and as a contributor to help out his teammates as well. So certainly, while this was 100% the right move to make for the Calgary Flames, a presence on this Calgary team that will be missed. Okay, that is going to do it for this bonus breakdown of the Tanev trade here for the Calgary Flames. We'll be doing this again as the Flames make more of their trades, and as big trades happen, we'll come on here for some kind of emergency episodes. But the regular Blasty Banter show will be back on Tuesday next week. Regular Couch Potato Diary coming out later on today with more of a focus on the world of professional wrestling. Sting's Last Dynamite, we will look at the legacy of Steve Borden, Sting, as well. Coming up on Fightin' Fridays, we'll be looking at some fights to make after the UFC card in Mexico, plus a full AEW Revolution preview. We'll have some football talk coming up for Football Fridays as well. And again, breaking trade news as it happens. Also, coming up on Saturday, it is the jersey retirement for Mika Kiprasov. Earlier on this year, last year, I did a Mika Kiprasov legacy look. So we'll be replaying that coming up on Saturday. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, whether you're watching or listening. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, leave a comment. What do you think about the Chris Tanev trade? Let me know. And if you're listening in podcast form, leave a review. That kind of stuff really helps me out. Thank you guys so much, and I will talk to all of you a little bit later on today.